All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am istherenoonelse, and in today's video, we will talk about what I've been running on my stamina warden for the last couple of weeks. Now, I want to be clear with this video that the more meta setup for a stamina warden would be 2H and sword and board. That is the more common and honestly better way to play. I just don't want to play the same type of play style in all my classes, so I try to come up with something that's a little bit more unique and still useful. And you know, I had a lot of people asking what I'm running, and so I figured I'd do a quick video and kind of talk about it, kind of talk about the pros and cons and those sorts of things. So yeah, let's dive into the video. So I am an Imperial Warden, and yeah. My consumables are as follows. Let me get down to the slot of the line. I'm running Jewels of Misrule because it's a lot cheaper, but if you can afford Orzorgas, you get a little bit more out of it. They're very close to the same, but the cost point is quite different. For testing builds, I just run Jewels. Like, you know, why get the expensive stuff when you're testing things? But yeah, that's what I'm running there. As far as potions go, I'm normally running tripots, but I do have detect pots available if I so need them. And yeah, as far as the gear goes, I am running the Master's Dual Wield on the front bar. Now, this is just my opinion. Well, we'll dive into the gear, and then I will go into the details for those of you guys that want to see it. So I got Master's Dual Wield on the front bar, Clever Alchemist on the back bar. This should be one-piece Balorg. I switched gear over and I just threw a helmet on. This should be Balorg. Impen, sturdy, whatever. Not invigorating, but yeah. I am running Mara's Balm. You definitely do not need to run Mara's Balm on a setup like this. If you're running Polar Wind, you just basically need 40 to 45k health. It's really easy to get health. We're an Imperial. We get minor toughness as well as a Warden, so it's very, very easy to stack health. You could do things like run Clever Alchemist on the body and then backbar something like Essence Thief or whatever. Just get to 40k health and your healing is going to be great. I was testing Mara's Balm. That's what I have been running on all the videos that I've been posting. So if you guys want to check that, like if you guys have been curious about like when you see Warden gameplay, this is what I've been running. I've been running and testing Mara's Balm. It's a good set still. 14-18 armor, 4 or 5 critical resistance, healing taken. When a negative effect is removed from you, restore 1629 health. This effect can occur once every 1 second. This removal is also on reapplication. So if somebody keeps hitting you with poison injection, like spamming poison injection, each time they reapply it, it's going to hit it. It's better for if this is set as double barred compared to back barred because you get more procs. There will be times if you're on your back bar, if you have to stay super defensive, it's fine. But sometimes if you go offensive, you will not get certain heals. And so I think it's just better to have it this way. It also, when you take damage and have 6 or more negative effects, restore 1629 health per negative effect and cleanse all of them. This effect can occur once every 15 seconds. So this set is a hot, a burst heal, and a purge of all negative effects every 15 seconds. It is a fantastic set. Like this is one of the best, if not the best survival set in the game still. Purge sets are genuinely traditionally underrated, just because like mitigation is often better, but often, like especially now with people stacking status effects with dots, cost increase, poisons, outnumbered, like it's really nice to have everything removed every 15 seconds. Do not sleep on the aspect of that for Maris. But yeah, the burst heal, you're fighting outnumbered, this will heal 8, 10, 15, depending on how tanky you are, how many people you have on you. I mean, I've seen as high as a 30k heal for this. It just really depends on how long you can stay alive in order to get all those negative effects to purge off of you. But yes, this is a very, very powerful burst heal. And then to offset the tank aspect, we are running Clever Alchemist on the back bar. Now, I did try Essence Thief. Essence Thief works. You could try a few different things. Alchemist is just a little bit easier, like set a potion, fire and forget. You know, you don't have to chase. Sometimes when you're running Essence Thief, especially outnumbered, you have to run around and pick up the Essence Pool. It's not a bad set. Essence Thief is fantastic. It's just Clever Alchemist is a bit easier to use. But if you like Essence Thief, you can absolutely run Essence Backbar. It'll give you better uptime, more sustain, you know, all those fun things. So yeah, 4 medium, 3 heavy, because we're bodying Mara's Balm, and then Sea Serpent's Coil. This should be a weapon damage enchant, and then 2 Mara's Balm's rings, all swift, all with weapon damage enchants. I've done the numbers, I've shown this in the past. Sea Serpent's Coil with swift, you will get more damage than infused Marken, as far as like flat tooltip damage. Now, if you want to run Bloodthirsty or something, you're probably better off running Death Dealer's Feet or Marken or whatever. Sea Serpent is just so much damage. Plus, passively, we can offset some of the snare from Sea Serpent with Icy Aura. Reduce the effectiveness of snares applied to you by 15%. And so Sea Serpent and Warden kind of go hand in hand with each other. Like they're very good for that reason. But yeah, we're doing that, and that's the overall gear. As far as the character sheet goes, these are unbuffed numbers, so we won't have Alchemist procced. Keep in mind, guys, like we're missing our Alchemist proc, which is 650 weapon damage. We are also missing our Major Courage buff from Sea Serpent, which is another 430. That is 1080 unbuffed weapon damage on this setup. Also with potions, if we do that, we get up to about 1888 recovery. With continuous, it's like 2100 plus 1257 magic recovery. Very, very good overall stats. Serpent Mundus, Stage 3 Vampire, Jewels of Misrule. As far as our skills go, we'll rattle through them quick. Bird of Prey. This gives us mobilization to snares, snare immunity for immobilizations and snares for 4 seconds. Minor Berserk, increasing our damage done by 5% just by having it slotted. We also get Major Expedition with this, so it's a very, very nice skill for that reason. It's also part of the annual Animal Companion passives, which is getting changed next patch, but yeah. Increase your armor penetration by 990 for each Animal Companion ability slotted. So you get another almost 1k pen with it. Rending Slashes. I went back and forth between this and Blood Craze. Rending is more damage. Blood Craze is another heal. Warden doesn't need healing. I mean, if you want the healing, you absolutely can. It's not a big deal. I liked the value of the snare plus the guaranteed hemorrhaging status effect a little bit more, but they're both good. They're both good. You choose what you want. Spin to Win, or sorry, Whirling Blades, not Spin to Win. Deep Fissure and Rapid Strikes. Now, I showed this in a previous video. Rapid Strikes actually scales pretty high. The tooltip is pretty damn good, especially once you start getting people off balance, once you have them feared and everything. There's a dual wield passive down here. So that gives you a 15% damage bonus when attacking stunned, immobilized, disoriented, or silenced enemies. So yeah, it scales very high. This has like a 14 or 15k tooltip with Alchemist and Sea Serpent up. And so then we have the Blood Craze dot, the Rending Slashes, which is like a 32k tooltip over 20 seconds when you factor in Masters. And we're running Dawnbreaker of Smiting. Now, you can run Northern Storm. However, if you're playing solo, you do want some sort of a CC, and you guys can see that I'm not running a CC on my bar. I will not be running Arctic Blast either for a lot of reasons. I'd rather just use the CC for Dawnbreaker. But yeah, if you don't want to do that, if you're running with a duo, like let's say hypothetically, you know, the guy you're playing with is a Mag DK and they have Fossilized. What's up, Lap? How are you, dude? Then you would use Northern Storm. Northern Storm with Rending and with Rapid Strikes and Northern is like major protection for your buddies. So much pressure. Like most things melt once you have all that going. But solo, I'd rather run Dawnbreaker just so you have the aspect of the sun. Dawnbreaker plus Deep Fissure, pretty standard. Do a lot of damage, start spinning, start winning. Backbar, Resolving Vigor, of course. Polar Wind. Now, you can run Arctic. I wouldn't run Arctic on this specific build unless you're scaling weapon damage. Polar is just a better morph. I mean, in most situations, Polar will be the better morph than Arctic. Arctic seems good. It does have a stun aspect to it. It does have a dot aspect to it. It's not bad. There's enough healing on Warden to basically make it definitely functional. Like, you can use Trellis, you can use Vigor. You have enough healing with it, but this is like the holy shit, like metric fuck ton of healing. Okay, like polar is so good. 12 like I have 40k health, 12.5k heal, and 3k health heal every 2 seconds over 10 seconds. So not only do you get a burst heal, but you also get a hot for 10 seconds. And these things stack. And so when I was playing with Nice, we both started running polar, and like 2 wardens running polar, it's very, very hard to kill them. I'm sure everybody's experiences in PvP at this point. There's a reason stamina warden is very, very strong, and it's polar. It's all about polar. And so you can run Arctic. Arctic isn't bad, but the fact that the stun can be blocked means that it's not nearly as good. If I'm running a blockable stun, then I'll just run Dawnbreaker. That's how I see it. But if you want to switch, if you disagree, that's fine. Blue Betty, we need a little bit more mag sustain to sustain our polar and our trellis and our snare removal. And so we're running the Blue Betty for the magic recovery for that reason. Ice Fortress, Living Trellis, and Enchanted Forest. Now, I would love to run Spell Wall. This is a new character. I do not have Spell Wall leveled yet, but I would fit that in that bar. I've been running this in a lot of no CP, but as far as CP goes, what I've been running when I've been in there is Duelist Rebuff. Gankers still hit hard. I think it's a good idea to still have this. You could put points into healing instead, since your healing is so strong. That's up to you. I'm not exactly an expert in that regard. I don't know which one is best. I did throw the critical resistance CP in there. I don't know if that's best either. Like I said, gankers are hitting hard, so it is nice to have some impen. Everybody seems to be scaling crit damage, so scaling a little bit of impen is pretty valuable, in my opinion. Biting Aura, increase your damage done with area of effect attacks. I mean, just about everything's AoE. Our Dawnbreaker, our Fissure, our Spin to win. The only thing that's not is our Rapid Strikes. Mastered Arms, increase your damage done with direct damage attacks. This is basically everything. We all have direct damage aspect to just about everything here, so this also buffs that. And so, yeah, you can make some adjustments here on how you want. You could go into single target if you want more rapid strike damage or whatever. You could go into dot damage if you so choose to. Honestly, you could probably, like this patch, especially if you run something like Mara's, you could probably take everything out of your defensive CP. You could take out Duelist Rebuff, you could take out this, and you could just go all into offensive and just do that. Pretty standard over here. Sustained by Suffering, just really good. Survival Instincts, fantastic. Slippery is so good. And honestly, I mean, I have health in here. Health is fine. Normally I would run Celerity with Sea Serpent, but with the snare removal, you don't need to do it. You could fit whatever you want. I just threw in the health to scale Arctic higher, to scale my polar higher. I'm not saying this is the best way to go. It probably isn't, but that's what I have. Over here, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I Gifted Rider, Rationer, and Liquid Efficiency. So yeah, so that's the overall setup for you guys. If you guys wanted to the quote unquote quick, down and dirty for it. Why did I do this? Like, why am I running this specific setup? Well, I wanted something different. I've been dueling off and on. I liked the idea, like, because of Betty or the Netch in general, we can do fun things like run dual wield and sword and board because we already have access to such a great skill like Netch that not only purges a negative effect, but it gives you your weapon and spell damage, and it gives you recovery. It's such a good skill, and it allows you to mix and match weapons quite nicely. And so I've been running sword and board. I ran Frost Staff and dual wield. I ran sword and board and dual wield. I liked both. I like the sword and board tankiness a little bit more in open world PvP. There's a lot of snipers and range builds, so being able to mitigate the... they both are very tanky, but sword and board has this... the amount of damage you can block from projectiles and ranged attacks, which does... It is noticeable. And so, yeah. I think that was, I think sword and board's the better way to go, but that's up to you. If you want the bigger enchant on the back bar, you could do that. If you want the magicka-based return on the back bar, you could do that as well. But yeah, I've been running this. I tried Clever Alchemist and Essence Thief, so back bar Alchemist, front bar Essence Thief with Sea Serpent and Balor, 4 damage sets, and it was very good. I dueled a few of my friends. My healing in a 1v1 situation was fantastic, even with like 33, 35k health. Once I got an open world, though, with that type of build, I felt like I was pressured a lot. Because my mitigation was next to nothing, I ran out of resources quickly in certain fights. and that's just not something that I want to do. I don't want to run across like 3 people and just not be able to do anything, just sit on my back bar and die. So I had to adjust, and that setup would be fine in a duo or a trio, especially if your duo and trio stacking a little bit of cross healing. Your survival goes through the roof in those situations. But if you don't have cross healing, or if you're playing solo, you need a little bit more survival than that, which is why I was looking at a defensive set. And so you don't necessarily need, like I said, you don't necessarily need a defensive set. You mostly just need to scale your health to over 40k. I've seen 40k, 45, 50k health wardens. As long as you're getting in that range with polar, your survival is going to be very, very good. And you're still going to have damage. You're still going to have damage. My fully buffed, my deep fissure still has like a 20k tooltip. Rapid strikes is 14.5 or 15. Dawnbreaker smiting fully buffed is like 20k. All these things still hit hard. And so it doesn't look like it because I'm not showing the stats with those, because I'm not proccing Sea Serpent or Clever Alchemist, but that's what they show in the editor. But yeah, what else is there to say? Yeah, so I was dueling with my friends, and I basically found with that setup, I wasn't running Rending Slashes. I was running Turn Evil, and I was debating between Northern Storm and Dawnbreaker and Meteor, and I would use Turn Evil. And so Turn Evil is a way to basically have an unblockable stun. Like if you want an unblockable stun, using something like Turn Evil and then timing a Meteor with your Fissure is a shit ton of damage. Like you can 100-0 just about anybody in the game with 4 damage sets: Turn Evil, Meteor, and Fissure. Like they're gonna go down if they don't block it. And so that was really nice. The problem with Turn Evil is the radius is very narrow, and oftentimes, like in PvP, due to positional desync, I would try to CC somebody and they would be out of the range. And so it didn't always work how I wanted it to work. It was a little bit too clunky. Also, you know, I admittedly don't play a ton of Warden, so I wasn't getting the hang of it. I stuck with Northern Storm. And so I realized when I was dueling also that although I was very bursty, I wasn't really able to apply enough damage to kill my friends until I had my ultimate. And so I wasn't really straining their health bar, even with 4 damage sets, until all of a sudden I had my Dawnbreaker or my Northern or my Meteor, whatever I was running. And so oftentimes it felt like they were spending 20, 30, 40 seconds regaining resources for an ultimate dump just to go on the defensive, survive, and then do it all over again. So I felt like I needed pressure. Like for this style setup, I felt like I needed a little bit more pressure because it just wasn't applying enough in those situations. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna slot masters. We're gonna see what happens. You know, we're gonna sacrifice a monster set. We're gonna sacrifice Balorg in this situation. And we're going to throw masters on and see if the dot pressure, like one of the only few good dots in the game, if that will help. And I found that it did. I found that it did apply a decent amount of pressure in a lot of situations. And so it allowed me to just have a little bit more damage in between those situations. Yes, I don't have as much 100-0 upside as I used to with my other setup, but I have more pressure. And because I have more pressure, people, especially in Battlegrounds, which is where I've been playing this a lot of, I have played in open world as well. I found that people just have a harder time sustaining. You know, like with the dot damage and the pressure going out, it's just more. It's more damage in general, and so it's not as much burst, but it's more damage. And so yeah, and so that's why I've been running masters for that reason. People have been asking, you know, hey, why don't you run, you know, like Growing Swarm, for instance? It looks like Growing Swarm does more damage, but the thing is you're missing the Master's Dual Wield effects. Master's Dual Wield gives you 1,635 more damage for each hit of the initial attack and the bleed. So you get 1,635 on top. For each tick, you get 1,635 on top of the tick. And so this just outperforms it. And so If you don't want to run masters and you want to run all the damage sets and you want to have even more burst, you can absolutely, you know, slot growing swarm. You can put Essence Thief on the front bar. You can go 4 damage sets or maybe 3 with Balorg or Bloodspawn. That would give you some tankiness, and then you can go Essence, Clever Alchemist, and Sea Serpent, and that would put you in a pretty good spot. That might work out pretty well, especially since this is giving you minor vulnerability as well. So your burst will be even more, like it'll be very good. But I don't know if this dot is really worth it, to be honest. In open world, I don't think it does enough damage. I think you'd only really be using this for the vulnerability. But yeah, I don't know. Those are just my kind of my thoughts. But Warden's kit is rather robust right now. Fissure gives you major and minor fracture. Major and minor breach. So you get a lot of pen here. Built into a skill. You have a lot of healing. You have a lot of support heals between Trellis, Polar, and Enchanted Forest. You provide so much off healing in a group, and Warden is fantastic for small group play. Like, arguably one of the best classes, if not the best class in the game for like 2-man, 3-man PvP, and it's only, in my opinion, going to get better next patch. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. We haven't gotten to next patch yet, so I don't want to jinx or ruin anything. But yeah, that's my overall setup. As far as like combos go, I mean, it's pretty standard. We'll do this really quick and then we'll call it. But you go into your Fissure, and then you hit your you would hit your Rending there, and then when you're almost to your Dawnbreaker or to your second Fissure, that's when you hit your Dawnbreaker. And so basically you want to use the first one and land the first one for your Fissure to get your major and minor breach. And then the second one's the big daddy damage. And so you hit your Dawnbreaker on the second one, you get the stun, you get the Fissure, and then you start spinning and winning. So yeah, it works out pretty well in BGs. Survival is fantastic because Mara's, because 40k health, because Warden, because Polar, like all that kind of stacks up and makes the survival very, very good. But yeah, like I said, you don't need Mara's. You don't need Mara's. You can just stack health and then, yeah, maybe run Bloodspawn. But I do like the Master's Dual Wield. I hopefully provided a couple other options if you don't like it. If you wanted to try something like this, if you're tired of the D-Swing, medium weave. I doubt you're getting tired of it, you know? Like, I really doubt you're getting tired of just destroying everybody in PvP on a Stamina Warden. But if you do get tired of destroying people on a Stamina Warden in one way, you could try this way. And so, I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't say it's as good. Burst is king in PvP. D-Swing's just a little bit burstier than Flurry. But this isn't bad. It's fun. It's different. Different is what I was going for. And so, yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. Let me know what you guys think. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.